All right, taking a peek at the draft, we've got Azir, Maokai, Alistar bans, all make a lot of sense, followed by Jax Rumble. Love that. Kennen is still available. Kalista, Xayah, and Orianna trying to pinch the OP pool. Now, this is something we talk about a lot. You don't need to pinch the best champions, right? You can just trade, especially as red team. You're going to have better access to them. You can say, okay, you have one, we'll take two, and then we can get priority for our lanes. I know that they don't want to make the draft predictable. They don't want to walk into prep by seeing that, but you can be unpredictable enough by leaving some combination of them up. Leave 2 OPs open, leave 3 OPs open, force them to take an OP ban out on the next stage, which is kind of what they did here. Kalista, Xayah being pinched, and then they look at Orianna. They say, hey, are you willing to ban Alistar or Orianna? We're going to leave something up. We're willing to take 2 of these. If you ban one, we'll ban another, and try to keep it at an odd number so that they can get it 3 or so picks into the draft. Giving up Kai'Sa tends to be something I'm totally okay with. It depends what you're trying to get for yourself from the lanes. We see here that K'Sante is being used as a counter pick into Aatrox. Absolutely love this. I hate Aatrox blind while K'Sante is in the game, because K'Sante can play super aggressively, play inside Q1 and Q2, just dash in, and then when you're ready to use Q3, he can just put up the shield from the W or dash out if he wants, but usually it's dash in into Q1, Q2. You put up the W in response to Q3, and you basically take a one-sided trade there. But that being said, there's a little bit of flexibility. You could change and get Neeko into the jungle. There's most likely going to be Neeko mid and Wukong jungle. So JDG very much going with what was strongest earlier in the season. A lot of these champions not nearly as strong as they were. It's going to be an uphill battle for them to try to take this game down, in my opinion, coming out of the draft. The grind. We start off with an Infernal Dragon spawn. We'll see how these teams react to that coming out. Are they gonna have a good old-fashioned dance-off right here? Favors K'Sante at the moment because there's a bigger wall at the back of the Aatrox, but I'm not saying that that's going to amount to anything. They also might consider that BM. But honestly, on this stage, I think anything goes. Now, fan out start. We're going to see if we get anything interesting coming from these adaptations. This is something that we have seen from LNG, particularly Scout, doing this, putting this ward down here. It's meant to be hidden, all right? But they were able to see it. They took Knight, pretended to be Wukong. That is a small thing that you should try to do. Pretend to be the jungler when you do this, so that if you are seen, at least there's a moment where enemy team might think, wait, there's a Wukong taking my Raptors, and therefore I should do X, Y, or Z as a response, right? And that is, oh, are they actually head faking this? Oh my goodness, this is so huge. This is super cool what they're doing here. So they head fake with the Wukong. They're like, all right, no, just kidding. All right, cool. I'm back in lane. I'm actually Neeko. You try to assuage the alertness from the Vi, and it's like, okay, it wasn't Wukong. Instead, Wukong goes into a blue, into a red steal. We'll see if they turn this into an immediate gank into the top lane. The only way to turn this into a fast 3 is to go for this camp next, and we'll see if he ends up going for it. It looks like he opts to just step back. That's a little bit surprising because Neeko actually has a good amount of push here. Ahri won't have the good push until she has 2 levels into her Q. Wukong opting for the steal into going back to his Gromp. Now, what this means is this Gromp's going to go down around 250. All right, so that means we're going to look at a 505 on the respawn. And we're going to see if the syncopated respawns in jungle timers will favor the Wukong. Wu has one of the strongest passives for early brawling in the entire game. And it looks like he wants to use this for a level 4 spike, potentially get into this eastern quadrant. We'll see if he does this after his recall, whether or not he actually just goes for a full clear on this side. The fact that you took a longer clear path means that you will be at this spawn at the moment that it gets to gets the respawn in. Now Vi will have access to this topside scuttle. We'll see if this all ends up getting traded away, whether or not Wukong goes for the fast scuttle and then goes back into their camps. But importantly, this does mean that Tarzan's not going to have level 4 off of all of their clears. So she might be feeling a little bit hesitant going to this situation. Probably confident enough knowing that Wukong spent all that time going in 2 different directions. Means that she'll be happy to pick up level 4 off of the scuttle. And Nico will have to jump back and kite to the right side. Wukong going for the respawn on Gromp. Gets that ward out. 357, just a little bit too fast, but this is preparing himself, right? You see how Vi's pinging? Look at that. She knows. This is the level that they think, guys. This is how close they're going. They know, they suspect, based on this play, based on the slow pathing here, they expect to have to fight for this Gromp. So she's alerting her team, hey, Wukong could easily be here. There's a good chance that he's on this side of the map. I may need help fighting for my own Gromp. So you see LNG countering with a push. All right, they take this, they push in the lane. It is the cannon going all the way in. Now, levels upon levels upon levels, Rakan going dematerializer, trying to fight back with the wave, eviscerating the cannon, means that if LNG wants to go help with Gromp, it means that they'll be able to set up a freeze for themselves. Instead, they'll be able to get this hold on their own. So super exciting early jungle pathing and all of the ramifications that come out of it. This is why jungle is such a good role to climb on, because if you've got this mastery down, if you can put the Tetris pieces together and create advantageous starts to the game, there's a very good chance that you'll be able to snowball. Love what Rakan does up here, using the shield as a benefit. Tristana can only chip at the shield, which means that Rakan just gets a free heal. Trade your auto attack from IQ. Once you're stuck in that animation, that's when I'm going to go for the trade, and it is completely one-sided. Able to get even more for themselves. Rakan playing for that tier 2 bush, that middle bush right there is a huge part of the trade patterns. Whoever owns this bush tends to win the melee versus melee matchups. We'll see whether or not that comes to fruition here. Kai'Sa Rakan very strong at this stage. Rakan stepping to the side just enough. We've spoken about this ad nauseum. Multiple different level spikes can be achieved. If you step outside of XP range for a moment, then you can come back. It is down to a precise level at the pro. I love to see these Chinese teams doing this, and most of the teams in Korea as well. You step aside, you let your AD carry get level 5. Yes, if you just hung out with them, you'd basically both be sitting on 4.99. All right, if there's no wards killed, you're going to go off of that last wave that they killed. You'd only be both level 4. By stepping to the side, you let the Kai'Sa hit 5 first on that wave, then you go to the side, and then the next major thing that gets taken down, you're going to hit 5 anyways. But this way you ensure that your carry hits 5. It gives you that slight little advantage if you do end up in those fights. Love to see these optimizations in the game. JDG looking clean. Everything about them has been good so far. They clearly like this composition. Wukong is so much weaker than he was last season that I thought that he wouldn't get seen at all, but one of the strengths that he does have is going against Vi. He can just take these fights, getting that stacking armor and health gain passive, regen passive, taking these fights, and then not to mention you can have that nice big spike on the AoE. But by taking that creative clear, you basically take out the disadvantage that they took out of your kit, right? By the nerfs that came out, and the AD nerf in particular, meant that you just are slower coming out of the jungle to the tune of like 12 seconds. Means that you can no longer be first to 3, first to 4, and go for a fight. So you instead opt for something that makes you a little bit harder to react to. You try to take some amount of tempo away from the Vi, and you go elsewhere on the map. So absolutely love seeing that. All right, Guardian being used. We have level 6 from both these champions. That is a beautiful ult from Tristana. One of the things that you can do is stack up 3 stacks before using your ultimate. That will make the bomb pop on the other side. It looks like that was 2 stacks turning into 3. So not quite a perfect synergy. You'd like to get one more ult, but by casting your ult, they both get bundled together. They both take that damage. You end up getting the Guardian proc as well as chip damage on rest. Nico wave clears. We see this early Sork shoes. Love to see this, actually. Putting a lot of emphasis on that first big play that you're going for. That is the biggest spike you can get from the majority of these champions. Is to go Sork shoes first, and then go for the high mobility and the factor that you get extra damage on those base level spells. Missing, coming over. We're going to see if we end up with a dive. You see how Ruler positions himself close to the wall? That's to maximize the distance between that bush and the wall. And he's going to go step up. He's going to go for a full clear here. Now that the minions are gone, they're not feeling comfortable. You would have liked LNG to try to stack a wave before going for this. They actually bait out. Why did you step forward, JDG? This is a mistake. They were feeling themselves stepping forward, saying, oh, this is great. We chased them away. Let us deal some chunk damage back. No, your wave has already been destroyed. That next wave is coming in. They're going to be able to wash you under your own turret. Absolutely hate that they opened that door for LNG to close it. Or walk through, however you want to handle that anecdote, word I'm looking for. It's been a long day. We've cast a lot of games, guys. Thanks for supporting the channel. That's what allows us to keep on going. So I appreciate you guys hanging out this far. If you've made it this far into all of the casts, 9:48, put the timestamp in your comment. We'll make sure to give a like. We'll give out prizes to random people at the end of the tournament. Anyone who is posted in any of our videos will be eligible to get 10 lessons from the Academy. So hopefully people partake in that. Make sure you put the hashtag Riot Please on any of the other videos to see like all the things that you see that are wrong. Love to see that. Love to see the timestamps in the videos as well, especially when you make it to the end. Let us know that you saw all the way to the end of that game. But coming through here, we've got 2-0 lead, not turning into any amount of meaningful gold advantage. We'll see whether or not we can get Aatrox into the map. We've seen the K'Sante Aatrox matchup play out significantly differently in the past. Perhaps we just have player diff, but this is not the same Zika that we saw last game. Normally, these K'Sante into Aatrox matchups, you just play super, super aggressively. You get in their face, and you take advantage of your hyper strong level 1. Perhaps they got thrown a little bit for a loop with that monkeying around in the jungle. I'd like to think that that's exactly what happened, that it wasn't just Zika opting to not take these advantages, but playing around the fact that Wukong might be in his face. And if that's the case, then you have to figure out what kind of preparation can you use for yourself so that you're not susceptible to that level 2 invade and a potential level 2 topside dive. You can't give respect everywhere. It's good to give respect. You have to be aware of the plays that might be available to the enemy team, but you don't necessarily need to give them all. Hold on, we've got the engage. We have beautiful pop blossoming hitting multiple people. Good grouping here by JDG, going to make it hard to get that damage onto everybody. Plus, we have 369 dealing all this damage up front. Misses Q2 in response to coming out of stasis, but it doesn't. Oh, no, it does matter. It does allow Zika to get into the fight, which means that we actually have a 2-for-2 trade. And it's the solos dying, right? Jungler and solo laner being a big difference coming out of this, plus jungler and support. So that's something that LNG is willing to take. I was scared for them that they would have gotten washed in that fight because 369 was able to get the first trip to the lane. Both top laners keeping their teleports. Ari's is down, so if there's one strength that JDG can claim coming out of this is that they didn't actually lose anything on the map from the fight, even though they lost top laner versus support. Nothing else comes from it. Now LNG opting to take this and turn it into a dragon. You guys already know how we feel about this. Dragons are fake news. It is something, all right, you do take it when you have your win. When there's nothing else to take, I'm fine with it, right? You're going to take something on the map, might as well get it. But it's going to be the rest of the tempo on the map. It is a tempo rift. Where can you get these other sources of strength? I would have preferred to see proactive rotations, something I can punish Aatrox for going back to top lane, for example. But by just parking Tristana down here and going for push and into recall, No extra plates taken, playing for a lot of respect despite the fact that you took the dragon. I would have thought that maybe you could have taken prio going into their southern quadrant, allow Tristana to rip into the plates of that bottom turret. Instead, they opt not to. They get a fast rotation on Tristana as their prize instead, and she will be the first one to go. So we had Q Flash. Decoy was not able to come out from Kanavi, but the whole time you had to wonder, like, did he? Did he get it off? Could he get Decoy or Ultimate off in response? The fact that Aatrox misses the timing on Q2 means that he has to bite the dust. I would much rather you be a tiny bit late and let them flash out and survive for yourself, rather than be early and whiff and then have to pay the piper. Tristana's in mid. Tristana plus Nautilus, you want to centralize them, make sure that they're good on the rotations. You get this mid lane prio. Tristana is always going to have kill threat onto Kai'Sa, but Kai'Sa is looking for the Q, especially evolved Q damage single target into that Trist. It looks like they were not able to get enough for themselves. If we're talking about the advantages that LNG were looking to get out of draft, that's one of them. Tristana having gotten a buff for lane, for bot lane, right? They took away some of her MR and they gave her some strength in the form of armor, means that she should be able and willing to take a lot of these otherwise coin flippy fights in the bot lane because you're just that much stronger. But because they're not able to get any kills or really any meaningful advantage at the Kai'Sa, they're even working with an 8 CS deficit. So power to JDG. I have to assume that it's based on the jungle diff from the early pathing. It's not that big of a difference, but it's enough to mitigate where they should have had strengths, right? Like you should be counting Tristana as a winning lane. You should be counting K'Sante as a winning lane. Instead, you don't. And you end up with this hyper-indexed K'Sante stacking armor against what's going to be a Black Cleaver stack over here. And you're going to have most likely the on-hit build from Kai'Sa. Means that they should feel fairly comfortable dealing lots of damage as these fights break out. We'll see whether or not it's going to be Navori on hit with the Kraken Slayer, or if it's going to be Rageblade. I'd like to see Rageblade here, but I think both are going to be good this game. Now, Aatrox. What is Aatrox going to be able to get off for themselves? I'd expect this to be Sterix Grage and not Hullbreaker, although we could see against this team of Ahri, K'Sante, they are very weak in the side lanes, where you could go Hullbreaker and try to push in waves, but it's just very weak into these team fights. You're losing those stats. There are some interactions where you're okay with it. For example, Briar, hilariously enough, something that we love going on her is going Hullbreaker and going into split push, using her ultimate to rejoin. Hullbreaker has a 4-second window where the debuff ticks off, okay? Or where the buff gets debuffed, we'll call it. And if you're joining a fight and you have a tremendous effect on that fight from distance, from cross map, then there could be interactions where you like to have that Hullbreaker. You dive in, let's say your Pantheon, for example, can be good on Hullbreaker, or Hullbreaker can be good on him, because by the time you're done casting all your spells, or even you could come in, you still have the Hullbreaker bonus, you could just throw empowered Qs and auto attacks and save the E for after the Hullbreaker comes down. That is an interaction that's available on some of these champions. So it is possible. There are windows and different champions that can look to abuse that, or take advantage of that, I should say. But Aatrox most likely for this game going to go Sterix Gage, trying to just rampage into these fights. We do have a bit of a wombo coming up with Rakan trying to corral them, knock them up with Wukong. That should give you plenty of time to get Pop Blossom. Really, you can use either one of these in response to one another. That should give Aatrox enough time to hit some sweet spots and get all that empowered damage going forward. Like this rotation here, fast proactive play, 4 people coming in for a top lane turret, but this is with Dragon on the table. We should see a fast push here from the Kai'Sa. Nico is already getting the push in response here. This is permanent damage onto the structures. You're also teleporting into a Nico with a wave coming. We'll see if she uses E into Q here. It looks like she doesn't. No, she does get the chip damage off into K'Sante. That's something you always have to be careful of. With the wave coming in like that, it means that Nico will have the empowered route Anytime her E passes through a target, the second half will the second target hit and all targets ensuing will have that empowered root duration, which will be enough for all 3 stacks of the Q to come out and deal that damage. Looks like we have Bramble Vest. We're going to see a Thornmail completed this game, not having nearly as much value as it did last game. You're basically only looking at a tiny bit of healing from Rakan, and you have the Aatrox healing. Bramble Vest should be enough to hold that down. Would have preferred to see something else. Beautifully timed Q from Hung. Bounce House, but he gets the Gore Drinker off, which means he gets the ultimate off. That is going to be the difference between winning this fight. The fact that they were not able to 100-0 the Aatrox, he gets the full healing values off. Then with the kill in the ult means that he takes out everyone. That is going to be back-breaking for LNG. JDG going up, just trying to get that permanent CC, right? Knockups into knockups into knockups, but the Gore Drinker is enough to get him. It's the Sterix Gauge diff. Right, he shows up in that fight. The fact that he had that extra health from Sterix Gauge means he's able to get the Gore Drinker off. That's what it's like to play around your spikes, guys. You go in, you're spiked, you know you can teleport into the middle of the team. You know what you have. They don't know. They can guess, but they don't know. And you constantly put that question to them. Give them difficult questions to answer. Make it sometimes that they have 2 bad answers, right? You either back off and give everything that you worked for this teleport, or you try to engage on this Aatrox as they tried right here. Everyone moving together, a little bit of overly changed CC, but again, it's Sterix Gauge. So he just gets a massive ultimate into massive Gore Drinker off, gets all that health back, and they just carry the fight from there. Beautifully done by JDG and specifically 369. Ahri opting into a very low damage build. Usually when you play from ahead, that's a good time to play with defensive items, especially in solo queue. In pro, I'd like to have you be the source of carrying your team. I don't mind in general playing defensively, for example, like Merc Treads into Syndra and then having it for the rest of the team. But when we look at the rest of this team, apart from the charm, we're talking about knock up. Merc Treads is not going to have that much value. I much rather would have had Lucid Boots from Ahri here. And I don't really want you to have Zhonya's either, because your team is relying on you to be your source of AP damage here. Okay, I'd much rather see like Horizon Focus or Shadow Flame. You're the only source of AP. That means we want your damage to matter. And instead, in this situation, like, yeah, Merc Treads, congratulations, you're still using your ultimate to get away from an Aatrox. Apart from JDG finding a wonderful ward for themselves, great teleport, great build, everything about it, synergizing the timing, everything about that was great from JDG, but we also have LNG kind of fumbling over these builds. I don't like to see this. I don't like to see this or this in this match. We'll see if they're able to climb themselves out. Hyper defensive build, you know, you could make the fight last longer. That could be good for your Tristana in this hyper scaling. But I don't know that it's going to be good enough. I think you're giving too much up. We'll see if that favors JDG. Now, outer turrets still up in mid lane. We do have a huge HP lead on that from JDG, so they're looking to siege. Their first one's here, which means that they're able to take this down. I like this, by the way, when you're going off Nico, when you're in position with your carry, both of you target the carry. Don't cast any more spells. Neither of you should cast it. And then you cast the W. You, again, ask the question, which one of us was Kai'Sa? Which one did we go? You might have an idea, but again, you don't know. And making them answer those tough questions might be the difference between a good call or a bad call, or making a good rotation or a bad rotation, or even just reacting to the next time that Nico shows up. Let's say that you're positive, like, oh, that might have been the Nico that used the clones. Therefore, the next time we see Kai'Sa, because she never left, that must actually be Kai'Sa. What if it's actually Nico? What if Nico's coming in as a minion on the next wave, right? You're not going to have time. You're looking at the Kai'Sa. You're not counting the wave. Also, in many cases, people talk about this, easy to count the minions. It's not so easy to count. This gets in range of Pop Blossom before you ever see this, which means that you're able to get these good effects off. Like I said, you're forcing them to answer difficult questions, and you're getting lots of good momentum from those plays. Absolutely love what JDG's all about right now. Kanavi looking for a flank. He's in behind them. They're opting for one kill. Oh, actually has to use flash. We're going to bite into the Ahri. No Everfrost available, right? Yep, there we go. Kanavi able to find that angle, says nope, we've singled out the Ahri who just got her ultimate back, by the way. Remember, she just had to use it up in top lane. She's just played defensively, hasn't played to carry, and is now just giving ground. So we see the strategy not working out for them. Neat little knight trick there from Nico, using your Pop Blossom in response to Q3 from Cassante. Oh my goodness, but they get the engage on the fight. Tristana just pops. Everybody just pops. Cassante dies as well. This Navori Quickblades build playing against the spikes again, as we saw, just going for tremendous leads. JDG, this is their game to lose at this point. Don't mind Tarzan taking away the dragon here, but you're going to have to fold or take this fight for yourself. We have Ahri into Aatrox. Are they even feeling good enough to take this fight 2v1? I don't know that they are. Nico also teleporting right away, saying, hey, we actually want to fight for this dragon. I don't know that JDG necessarily even needed to do that, okay? This is D2 for enemy team. Spending those resources and having them off the table means that you're not going to have access. Now, if you're LNG, okay, enemy team has used both teleports. Congratulations, we lose this dragon, that's fine. I'd like to see you come over here, create a wall and create points of strength and fortify the northern side of the map. Go for the most shallow line of wards possible here, and see if you can counter. This standoff is not going to favor you. You're not going to want this all in unless you get like the perfect situation, but it's not worth even fishing for it. What is Nautilus or Vi supposed to do in this spot? It's really tough to play. Instead, you're just going to end up walking in this cannon, dealing permanent damage. We'll see if they decide to stick with the push. It is post 25 minutes, so from now on, every single wave will have a cannon attached to it. I ends up finding a scoot, Wukong digging kind of deep. We end up seeing the pick back, Nico taking one in return. Now this actually has turned into a good little situation for themselves. We see that they haven't gotten all the waves into position. Missing is trying to get the perfect charm battle dance to get everybody into position. We see Aatrox flying into the middle of these fights. Oh my gosh, 369 just taking this game onto his back. All of this, honestly, thanks to the creative pathing done by Kanavi. Kanavi, I think, basically 1v5'd this game with the early start. Whether or not it was scripted or whether or not it was adapted, it broke the back of Tarzan and LNG if they were not able to play towards any of their advantages because of pathing diff. This one comes down to that early decision. Who gets the wards, whether or not you're able to head fake, whether or not you're able to get everything. Just a masterclass right here so far by JDG. Looking good, and they're our first team to promote. They will be going into the knockout games. It's expected. This is the Golden Road team. They won LPL Spring, they won LPL Summer, and MSI. They are the favorites. They have to be the favorites to win this tournament. We'll see whether or not it's Genji that matches them. I will say it is, in my opinion, a detriment. This is a downside. You only got to play 4 games, and now you're going to have to wait 6 days until you get to play in your knockout games. They're going to get to spend a lot of time watching these teams, scout them, analyze them. That will be a benefit, but hopefully they get to play some meaningful games and they get to optimize for those times, because it can be very easy to come out a little bit rusty if you get a week off. Anyways, thanks for the support, guys. I appreciate the likes and the subscribes. Make sure that you turn on notifications so you can get every single game from this Worlds 2023. We'll be broadcasting them all, especially trying to go live for the knockout stages. And I can't wait to see you guys there. Leave a comment in the comments leave a comment down below if you've made it this far. I appreciate you guys hanging out.